Emma's fingers were white-knuckled around the pregnancy test as she stared at the two pink lines. Positive. She should have been happy, but all she felt was pure terror. Because the baby couldn't be her husband's. Prince Jaewon hadn't touched her in 8 months. She heard his footsteps in the hallway and shoved the test into her pocket just as he walked past their bedroom without even glancing in. He was on the phone, laughing at something the person on the other end said. She hadn't heard him laugh like that in over a year.
The arrangements are
Not
in place.
since their wedding day.
I understand.
Emma's hands shook as she pulled out the test again, staring at it. This would destroy everything. The scandal would be nuclear. But the worst part? She had no idea how it happened. The last 3 months were a blur of sleeping pills her doctor prescribed for insomnia, high-stress events, and gaps in her memory she couldn't explain. If you think you know where this is going, think again. Hit subscribe right now because this story is about to get wild. Drop a comment telling me what you think happened. Let's get into it. 14 months earlier, Emma's life had been completely different. She was a 26-year-old art consultant working for a major auction house in Seoul. That's where she met Jaewon at a private viewing for a rare collection of Joseon Dynasty paintings. He'd walked in surrounded by security, and every person in the room had bowed. Except Emma, who had no idea who he was. "Can I help you?" she'd asked in Korean, which she'd learned fluently during her 5 years in Seoul. His eyes had widened in surprise. "You didn't bow. Should I have?" Emma had asked, genuinely confused. One of his guards had stepped forward, but Jaewon waved him off, a slow smile spreading across his face. "No, it's refreshing actually. I'm Jaewon. Emma. Nice to meet you." She'd shaken his hand like he was a normal person. "Are you interested in the collection?" They'd spent 2 hours talking about art, and Emma had made him laugh multiple times. When he finally left, her boss had pulled her aside, pale-faced. "Do you have any idea who that was?" That was Crown Prince Jaewon, third in line to the throne. Emma's stomach had dropped. But 3 days later, Jaewon had shown up at the auction house again. And again. And again. He'd asked her to dinner, to museums, to quiet restaurants where they could talk without cameras. He'd been charming, funny, attentive. He told her he'd never met anyone like her, someone who treated him like a regular person. "Everyone around me wants something," he'd said one night over dinner. "Power, connections, favors. But you just want to talk about art and argue about whether Monet or Renoir was the better impressionist." "Monet, obviously," Emma had said, and he'd laughed. 3 months of secret dating turned into a proposal at the Han River at sunset. Emma had said yes because she was completely in love with him. The engagement announcement had been a media frenzy. "American Nobody Lands Korean Prince," one headline had read. Another said, "From art girl to princess, the Cinderella story." But the fairy tale had ended the moment the palace gates closed behind her. The royal family had been polite but cold. The queen had looked Emma up and down during their first formal meeting and said, "I suppose we'll have to make do." The king hadn't even bothered to hide his disappointment that his grandson was marrying a foreigner with no political connections. But worse than the family was the change in Jaewon himself. The warm, funny man who'd courted her disappeared. In his place was a distant stranger who followed protocol perfectly but barely looked at her. Their wedding was massive and beautiful, and Emma had cried during the ceremony, but not from joy. From the realization that she'd made a terrible mistake. The honeymoon in Switzerland should have been romantic. Instead, Jaewon had worked through most of it. The one time Emma had tried to initiate intimacy, he'd been stiff and awkward, finishing quickly and then immediately getting up to take a shower. Emma had lain there feeling used and confused. "Did I do something wrong?" she'd asked when he came back. "No, I'm just tired." He'd climbed into bed with his back to her. That was the last time they'd been intimate. 8 months ago. Back at the palace, things got worse. Jaewon was busy with royal duties, often gone for days. When he was home, he was formal and distant. They had separate bedrooms, separate schedules, separate lives. Emma attended events as required, smiled for cameras, waved at crowds, but inside she was completely alone. The only person who seemed to genuinely like her was Minjun, Jaewon's younger cousin. He was 28, worked as a photographer, and wasn't directly in line for the throne, which meant he had more freedom. He'd started showing Emma around Seoul, taking her to places tourists never saw, making her laugh for the first time in months. You seem sad, Minjun had said one afternoon while they were getting coffee. I'm fine, Emma had lied. You're a terrible liar. He'd smiled gently. It must be hard, marrying into this family. They're not exactly warm and fuzzy. That's an understatement. Over the next few months, Minjun became her only friend. He'd text her when she was stuck at boring state dinners. He'd sneak her out of the palace for late-night food runs. He listened when she talked about how lonely she was, how much she missed her old life. He never judged her, never told her to just deal with it like everyone else did. Then came the night 3 months ago that Emma couldn't fully remember. It had been the annual royal gala, and Emma had been feeling sick all day. Stress, she thought. The palace doctor had given her something to help her get through the evening. She remembered taking the pill, remembered the gala starting, remembered Minjun making her laugh at something. And then nothing. Just fragments. Being in a car. Minjun's apartment. Lying down because she felt dizzy. Everything after that was blank until she woke up the next morning in her own bed at the palace with a splitting headache and no memory of how she got there. She texted Minjun, "What happened last night?" "I can't remember anything after the gala." His response had been immediate. "You weren't feeling well. I drove you home. You went straight to bed. Are you okay?" Emma had brushed it off as a bad reaction to the medication. But now, staring at the pregnancy test, her blood ran cold. The timeline matched. She'd gotten her period like clockwork until 3 months ago. Right after that night, she couldn't remember. Her phone buzzed. A text from Minjun, "Can we talk? It's important. Meet me at the coffee shop in 81. 4 p.m. Come alone." Emma's hands shook as she typed back, "I'll be there." She made it to the coffee shop early, her heart pounding. When Minjun arrived, he looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hands trembling as he sat down. "I need to tell you something," he said without preamble. "And you're going to hate me." "What are you talking about?" "That night 3 months ago. The gala." He couldn't meet her eyes. "You weren't sick. Someone drugged you." The world tilted. "What?" "I saw it happen. One of the staff, someone I'd seen talking to Jaewon's mother earlier, put something in your drink. I tried to get you out of there before anything happened. I brought you to my apartment because I didn't know if it was safe to take you back to the palace. You were completely out of it." Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Did we?" "No. God, no. Emma, I would never. You passed out on my couch. I stayed up all night making sure you were okay, and then I took you home early in the morning before anyone noticed you were gone." His eyes were desperate. "I should have told you immediately. But I was scared. If I accused the Queen's staff of drugging you without proof, it could start a war in the family. And I wasn't sure who to trust." "Why are you telling me now?" Minjun pulled out his phone and showed her a video. It was security footage from the gala, clearly showing a staff member dropping something into Emma's champagne glass. The timestamp showed it was right before Emma had started feeling sick. "I finally got access to the security system," Minjun said. "I've been investigating quietly for months. Emma, I think someone in the royal family wanted to set you up. To make you look bad so Jaewon would have grounds for divorce." Emma felt like she was going to be sick. Why would they do that? Because they never wanted Jaewon to marry you in the first place. You're American, you're not from a powerful family, you're not useful to them politically. If they could manufacture a scandal, they could get rid of you without making Jaewon look bad. But nothing happened that night. Their plan failed. Minjun's face was grim. "Are you sure about that?" Emma's hand instinctively went to her stomach. "I need to tell you something." When she told him about the pregnancy test, Minjun went pale. "But you and Jaewon haven't." "No, not in months." Emma's voice shook. "Minjun, I don't understand how this is possible. If nothing happened that night, then how am I pregnant? Unless something else happened. Another time. Do you have any other memory gaps?" Emma thought hard. There had been other nights over the past few months where she'd felt strangely tired, where she'd taken the sleeping pills the doctor prescribed and woken up feeling disoriented. She'd thought it was just stress and medication. But what if it was something more sinister? "Oh my God," Emma whispered. "What if they've been drugging me regularly? What if someone," she couldn't even finish the sentence. "We need to find out the truth," Minjun said firmly. "First, you need to see a doctor. A private one, not anyone associated with the palace. Get a DNA test done. If you are pregnant, we need to know exactly when conception happened and whether there's any medical evidence of assault. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. This can't be happening. I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. I should have protected you better. Minjun reached across the table and squeezed her hand. But I promise you, we're going to figure this out. And whoever did this to you is going to pay. The private doctor Minjun found was discreet and professional. The examination was thorough and painful, both physically and emotionally. The doctor confirmed the pregnancy, about 12 weeks along. But more importantly, she found evidence. Signs of repeated exposure to sedatives. Markers that suggested Emma had been unconscious during conception. I'm legally obligated to report this, the doctor said gently. This is assault. No, Emma said immediately. Not yet. I need to figure out who did this first. If I report it now, the palace will bury it, and I'll never get answers. Please. The doctor looked conflicted but finally nodded. I'll document everything thoroughly. When you're ready to go public, I'll have all the evidence you need. Emma and Minjun spent the next 2 weeks quietly investigating. Minjun used his connections to access more security footage, to talk to staff members who might have seen something. Slowly, a picture emerged that made Emma sick to her stomach. It wasn't just one incident. It was systematic. Multiple times over the past months, the same staff member had been caught on camera entering Emma's room late at night. The same staff member who worked directly for the queen. The same staff member who, Minjun discovered, had a brother who was a doctor at the fertility clinic. They were trying to get you pregnant, Minjun said, his voice shaking with rage. Probably with some random sperm donation. So they could claim you cheated and kick you out in disgrace. But why go to these lengths? Why not just pressure Jaewon to divorce me? Because Jaewon won't divorce you. I've asked around. Apparently, he's refused multiple times when his parents have suggested it. Whatever his issues are with your marriage, he's committed to making it work, at least publicly. Emma felt a confusing mix of emotions. Jaewon had been a terrible husband, distant and cold. But he hadn't abandoned her completely. That was something, even if it wasn't enough. I need to confront him, Emma said. Before I do anything else, I need to tell Jaewon everything. That night, Emma waited in Jaewon's study. When he came in at midnight, clearly exhausted, he froze at the sight of her. Emma, what are you doing here? We need to talk. Now. Her voice was steel. He looked wary but sat down. Okay. Emma pulled out the pregnancy test and set it on his desk. Jaewon stared at it, his face going white. That's not possible, he whispered. I know. Because you haven't touched me in 8 months. Emma's voice was surprisingly steady. So let me ask you a question, Jaewon. Why did you stop sleeping with me? He struggled for words. It was complicated. Uncomplicated. Right now. Jaewon stood up, pacing, his composure finally cracking. Because my mother told me to. She said if we didn't consummate the marriage properly, it would be easier to get it annulled when the time came. She said you were temporary. That eventually, I'd divorce you and marry someone appropriate. Emma felt like she'd been slapped. And you just went along with it? I didn't know what to do. I was in love with you, but I was also terrified of disappointing my family. So I tried to find a middle ground. Stay married to you, keep you safe, but maintain enough distance that my mother would be satisfied. His voice broke. I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I played along with her plans, she'd eventually accept you. How did that work out? Emma's laugh was bitter. Let me tell you what actually happened while you were busy playing dutiful son. She told him everything. The drugging at the gala. The memory gaps. The private investigation. The security footage. The evidence of systematic assault. By the time she finished, Jaewon looked like he might throw up. My mother did this? His voice was barely audible. Her staff member did it. Under her orders, I'm guessing. Jaewon sank into his chair, head in his hands. I'm going to kill her. I'm going to actually kill her. What you're going to do, Emma said coldly, is help me expose this. I want DNA tests. I want investigations. I want every single person involved in prison. And I want a divorce. Emma. I'm done, Jaewon. Even if you weren't actively involved in this, you created the environment where it could happen. You chose your mother over me. You abandoned me emotionally and physically. You left me vulnerable and someone took advantage of that. Tears were streaming down her face now. I loved you. I would have given you anything. And you broke me. Please, Jae-won reached for her, but she stepped back. Please let me fix this. Let me make this right. You can't fix this. But you can help me get justice. What happened next moved quickly. Jae-won, to his credit, went to war for her. He brought in private investigators, lawyers, and eventually the police. The evidence was overwhelming. The Queen's staff member was arrested. Under pressure, he confessed. He'd been paid to drug Emma and artificially inseminate her while she was unconscious. The plan was to wait until she was showing, then discover the pregnancy and expose her as an adulteress. But the DNA test revealed something nobody had expected. The baby was Jae-won's. How is that possible? Emma asked the doctor. There was one time, Jae-won said quietly. About 3 months ago. I came home late and went to your room to check on you. You seemed drunk or sedated. You were barely conscious. But you reached for me and he looked sick. I thought you'd taken something to relax. I thought you were just tipsy. We had sex. You fell asleep immediately after, and in the morning, you didn't mention it, so I thought maybe you didn't remember or didn't want to talk about it. Emma stared at him in horror. I was drugged, Jae-won. I couldn't consent. I know that now. He was crying openly. I'm so sorry. I should have realized something was wrong. I should have made sure you were okay. His voice broke completely. I assaulted you. Oh God, I assaulted you. The room was silent except for both of them crying. The investigation revealed the full extent of the Queen's plan. She'd been drugging Emma for months, trying to create opportunities. When Emma and Jae-won had accidentally slept together while Emma was incapacitated, it had actually helped the plan. The Queen had intended to discover the pregnancy and claim Emma had been sleeping with someone else, using the drugging as cover. The scandal exploded. The Queen was forced to step down. The staff member was prosecuted. Media around the world covered the story. Emma became a symbol of survival, speaking out about her experience and advocating for assault survivors. And Jae-won? Emma filed for divorce, but something strange happened. As the truth came out, as they went through therapy together to process what had happened, something shifted. Jae-won was broken, genuinely broken. He took full responsibility. He went to therapy himself. He publicly apologized to Emma. He told his entire family that if they wanted him to remain in line for the throne, they had to accept Emma completely or he'd walk away from everything. I don't deserve your forgiveness, he told Emma 6 months after everything came out. I don't deserve a second chance. But I need you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you deserved from the beginning. Emma was 7 months pregnant by then, living in a private residence away from the palace. She'd spent months in therapy, processing the trauma, rebuilding herself. She looked at Jae-won, this broken man who'd failed her so catastrophically, but who was genuinely trying to change. I don't know if I can ever fully forgive you, she said honestly. But I'm willing to try. For our child. And maybe for us. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was messy and complicated and painful. But slowly, carefully, they rebuilt something new. Not the fantasy romance Emma had thought she was marrying into, but something real. Something honest. Something forged in fire and trauma, but stronger for it. When their daughter was born, Jae-won held Emma's hand through the delivery and cried when he saw her for the first time. I promise, he whispered to both of them. I promise I'll protect you both. Always. No matter what. And this time, Emma believed him. 1 year later, they were married in a small, private ceremony. Not as prince and commoner, but as two broken people who'd survived hell and chosen to heal together. The palace tried to make it a grand affair, but Emma and Jae-won refused. Just family who supported them, friends who'd stood by them, and their daughter sleeping peacefully nearby. Everyone envied my life with a Korean prince, Emma said in her vows. They saw the glamour, the jewels, the fairy tale. They didn't know I was dying inside. They didn't know about the darkness. But here's what I learned. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something real. Sometimes you have to go through hell to find out who you really are and what you really deserve. She looked at Jae-won, at this man who'd broken her, and then helped put her back together. You failed me. Catastrophically. But you also fought for me when it mattered most. You chose me over your family, over your duty, over everything. That doesn't erase what happened. But it's a start. I'll spend my whole life proving I'm worth this second chance, Jaewon said, his voice thick with emotion. I choose you. Every day. No matter what. And for the first time, Emma felt like she might actually believe in happy endings again. Not the fairy tale kind. The real, hard-earned, fought-for kind. If this story shocked you, hit that like button and subscribe for more dramatic love stories. Comment below. Do you believe people can really change? Can a relationship recover from betrayal this deep? Share your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and remember, your story isn't over until you say it is. See you next time.